You're listening to a DM podcast.
Welcome to Over the Back Fence. I'm Di Edwards.
I'm Nicola Dale, and we're buddies of nearly 4 decades. And yes, we actually do happen to share a back fence.
We do. We love parties, people, inspirational stories, and honestly, making the most out of life.
So join us as we open our hearts, share our stories, and hear from some of the most inspirational people in the world. And have a laugh along the way.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Well, Nicola, coming up, this was pretty crazy and very close to home. We interviewed my 2 brothers.
Colin and Richard, your baby brothers.
Scotts.
And wow, this is a not to be missed episode. It is hilarious. It's heartfelt. And you're going to get to know a bit more about Didi. It's true. She's actually one of 8.
They shoot some dirt on me when growing up, which is hysterical. But yeah, Colin was an NFL player and Richard's a producer, has a big media production company. And honestly, their lives were entwined in many ways when Colin was at the University of Hawaii. We couldn't stop laughing. Honestly, look, I'm selling tickets on my family right now, but...
And so you should, Di.
Yeah.
You know, really, you have got the most remarkable family. And I've always sort of butted in and as they say, I'm
You're
another
the sixth sister. Yeah.
But it's just such a great chat, and I just love chatting with your brothers.
It was beautiful.
So everyone, I'm sure, you're going to enjoy it.
Yeah, 8 kids. So it was almost, to me, like just even sitting and interviewing, it was like watching a movie for me.
Wow.
Yeah, like
wow.
the reel was playing.
That's
yeah.
interesting because
yeah.
I didn't know for you what it's going to be like around the kitchen table back in the day, but hearing the stories and about, your mum and dad too.
Yeah, and honestly, because there's a vein of positivity that runs very strongly through the family, all of us. And as I said, actually, as you'll hear in the podcast, that there's a river of love that runs through us too. And some days you want to just literally kill them.
That's
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But that river of love you tap into and saves you every time, and off you go flowing down the river again. So I think it's many lessons in it too.
Yeah.
Like as parents or grandparents, the way mum and dad set examples and a lot of things they quoted, which blew me away.
Yeah.
There's a lot I learnt too.
Wow, Di, I love hearing that. Well, I'm sure you guys are going to absolutely love hearing this and getting to know a bit more about Di and her 2, just 2 of the beautiful baby brothers, Colin Rich. Enjoy. Today we have family at our back fence. Di's hunky and super sporty and loving big baby brothers, Colin and Richard Scotts, joining us here at our back fence. This is going to be fun. I reckon a bit of dirt on Didi here.
Start the party.
And hearing the real behind the scenes of what life really was like growing up in one of Sydney's most iconic and chaotic Palm Beach families, the Scotts, with all 8 kids. Well, Colin, living legend, the first rugby player in the world to make it into the NFL in the USA. He's also written a best-selling book with the best name of all Balls.
Mum named it.
Wow.
It's true.
Amazing. And a proud dad of 2. Richard's super smart, charismatic, and a former first-grade national rugby champion himself, now sells sports to the world. He runs a hugely successful media company and presently is putting together a film script of Colin's amazing life called Rough Diamond, let alone proud father of 4 and is our neighbour. So much to tell. Welcome, lads, to the back fence.
Great to be here. Great to be here.
Nicola's wanted you guys on because Nicola's known my family. God, well, how long? Like
86.
Well, there you
Wow,
go.
you remember the date. I'm surprised you don't remember the date.
Yep. I think I do. The date
Sometimes, Nicola, I forget you're not a sister. We have so many. So.
Yeah, they say you're the 6th sister. Yeah,
Well,
not 6.
Well, a bit of
sister.
Hey, but guys, hey,
scary.
welcome. And
Thanks.
look, we've got the part of the fam here, and you really are, of all the families I've ever met in my life, you're the most beautiful, loving, generous, kind, amazing family. You really are. And I say that from the heart. But saying that, What was it like having Di as a big sister growing up in those early days?
Never boring, Nick.
It's going to take a commercial break.
Two things about
Where are you going, Di?
No, there's two things about Di: laughter and energy, and there was never a quiet time with Di. That's why I'm so happy she's found somewhere where she can release this energy. And it was
True.
It's true. And life to me is all about energy and enthusiasm and passion. And Di just oozes it. You can be at the most boringest of parties. And I remember as a kid, and Di would walk in, and it just took off. That's a gift, Di. That's a gift.
It's true. And it's always been an animated family. I mean,
Yes.
as anyone can attest to, when you grow up in a big family, in fact, the older I get, the more I begin to appreciate what a privilege it is to grow up in a big family, but especially a family like ours where you had to do a lot of talking to be noticed, but everybody was outgoing, everyone was successful in their own right. I think we're all very different, and we don't always agree, but we've just got this, bond between us, which is quite hard to explain.
I've always said it's a river of love that just flows constantly, even though at times you want to kill one or two of them.
Well, that's why my friends often turn up and see us arguing, going, "Oh, you hate one another," and I go, "No, it's just how we express ourselves." And sometimes it's good to get things, I think getting things off your chest, you got to do that. But Di is just one of 5 very eccentric sisters, and
That's a lot of chicks.
Colin and I were with one other younger brother as well. I mean, growing up with 5 sisters is fantastic because they looked after us, and they're all stylish, fun, and super successful, so popular. And the other thing too, everyone forgets when you've got a family of 8 kids, you generate such an energy. We drew so many other kids to our household. So we grew up with every day, and Cole can attest to as well, you run into people saying, I spent all this time at your house and your family.
Pat Rafton used to break into the house.
Just everybody turned up at our house.
As Dad always said to me, and I'll never forget it, son, the best thing about Scott's family, if you can laugh at yourself, no one can laugh at you. And I think it's a really good base for anybody going forward, as humour and laughter seems to be dying out. If you don't take yourself seriously, life, you can't be hurt by anybody.
Yeah,
I love hearing that. I think that is a really good Scots trait. I can see
it
that.
is.
Even on our last sort of family holiday there, and I'm saying family, it was your family, but I've included myself in the family. It doesn't matter in Ibiza. And post the wedding, and just the next day when we're all having sort of a dinner on the beach, and just seeing everybody all relaxed in this one huge big table, and the interaction and the laughter, and I just sat back and looked at you all as a family and just was in awe, going, "Whoa, this is unique."
It's great energy.
Beautiful.
And we've got Mum and Dad to thank for that.
Absolutely.
Just kind, generous. And, Dad, we lived a good life. Dad was pretty well off, but he was tough as well, self-made guy.
But tell us a bit about your dad.
Well, Dad was, very successful in whatever he did. He could be really tough on certain things. But self-made from nothing. But he was always about treating everybody as an equal. No one's better than anybody else. And, he's a very successful property developer, and he used to always preach to me about, son, there might be 50 guys on this construction site, but you're no better than the brickies labourer or the carpenter. Everybody should be treated as an equal. Yeah. And I think even though we grew up in a wealthy household, we were all very humble. I think we were humble and level-headed because, Dad was as generous as he was. He certainly taught us the value of the dollar and just to treat everybody, as an equal. And he certainly was living proof of that. He had no airs or graces,
That's beautiful.
Do you know what? Dad was doing a development in Manly. I've got this memory of us with our little white neat hats going to Loretto Kirribilli, and he'd park us in the Mercedes around the corner. He'd get into a ute or like a bomby old station wagon, and up. Then he'd drive to the site because he wanted to be on it as an equal with all the tradies. And I didn't understand at the time, but now in reflection, I think that's so honourable.
Absolutely.
And really, that is Dad on a plate. Well, you know what I mean?
Like, and he was anti-snob.
Very anti-snob.
He couldn't stand,
he wouldn't want you in the house.
We were lucky enough to go to a nice Eastern Suburbs private school, but Dad was very anti-snob.
Yeah, isn't that
very
amazing?
About,
it's kind
very
of refreshing,
grounded.
isn't it?
Well, it's really nice.
It is.
Because sometimes when you say to people, people are ashamed of coming from a wealthy upbringing, and I wear it as a badge of honour because we were privileged, we were lucky, but it didn't make us bad people in any respect. No, in fact, the opposite. Dad taught us all to look after. I think as a family too, as a family unit, we're very much about the stronger looking after the weaker as a family, which is what all friends and family should do. And Dad lived by that.
He was never down. He was always up about Dad. Every morning, Monday morning, no coffee, up. I'm up every morning bright and early to wake up all the neighbours. Just what enthusiasm to start your day. Even I'm looking at my kids like, shut up in the morning. Right, go away, piss off.
You are right.
Where did he get it from?
That's a really good question.
Well, yeah,
because he went to boarding school at a very young age.
No, and his father didn't love him, so it's interesting.
Yes. Where did he get it? It's a great question, Nicola.
He used enthusiasm, and I was telling the story just the other day about I'm often, when my son walks off the rugby field, he's now 12 or 13, I always go up and hug him and kiss him, and not all the dads do that. And Kai, my son, sort of giggles out. He likes it but doesn't like it, if you know what I mean? But I know where I got that from, because when I went to school, didn't matter whether I was 15, 16, 17, whether I was arguing, Dad always kissed me and said, love you, son, as I got out. Then I usually said something less enthusiastic, but he always gave affection. So he was one of the, remember the old school dads didn't do that. No. Our dad was incredibly affectionate. He was just full of love, and to him, life was all about family first.
Very much so.
It was everything.
Number one.
So we've all got that. Yeah. We've all got that.
And your beautiful mum.
Another rock star.
Well, as someone said the other day to me, a friend of baby brother Anthony, he said, my memories of your mum was coming on a Saturday, going up the stairs to the kitchen, and I couldn't see your mum because there was so many sandwiches made. And he said, oh, you've got people coming over. Oh, no, like that's just for the day, like someone will call in, or it might be football or whatever. He said it was to the ceiling.
Mum always said too, is how is it that she could have 8 kids and yet every single weekend there was at least another 20 kids in the house that she had to feed.
It is very true.
Because so how she
they just rock up.
And I ate for 20 myself.
No, it is.
It starts from, I think too, there's mum, 5'2", blonde hair, tiny, and then I come along into the world. Like honestly,
what did you weigh when you were born?
14 pounds, the biggest baby born at that time. No cesarean back then.
That was after she was told she couldn't have any more kids.
He's been a record breaker from the day he's been born, hasn't he?
She said they had to rebuild me. I'm great, Mum. That makes me. But then the doctor comes over, because fathers weren't allowed in the rooms in those days. It was all about the mum. And then so his mum, right, 5'2" and blonde, and I come out 2 feet long, and olive, and the doctor goes, honey, we've got an issue here. If your husband isn't big and olive, we'd have to have a chat.
That was after 4 girls and then Colin.
How exciting.
So true. Dad had 4 girls, and his brother, who was a Wallaby and an elite rugby player as well. All they wanted was a son. They got 4. Bob got 4 daughters, and Stuart Scott's got 3 daughters. So there was 7 in a row. And lo and behold, who turns up? Colin.
Wow.
He was
great.
Made up for all of it.
True.
So what were some of the early days like? Some of the stories there, because I think there's something about you, Rich. Wasn't it taking Gretel Packer to a dance or something in a fancy car, or I don't know, like your neighbours with the rich and famous?
You go Gretel Packer, I'll go Kerry Packer.
Tell us some stories.
No, like I said,
we
grew up. The Packers grew up a couple of doors up from us, but we didn't think twice about that.
They were
just
so normal.
And Gretel's lovely. We're all great mates with Gretel. And I don't want to speak out of school because Gretel's just quite private and gorgeous. But I remember I went to Gretel's school formal with her at Askham, and I remember a funny story. Mum and Dad saying, "Oh, you got to take the Mercedes to pick up Gretel," and I was like, "Oh, I'm not going to take the Mercedes. I look like a cheese ball. Like, why would I do that?" And then I'm having because I had this beat up blue Tirana that I really was proud of. And I said, no, Gretel's my buddy. I'm going to pick her up in the Tirana. I'm not going to pick up the Mercedes. Like, what a silly look that's going to be. Funny story about that was when I did pick up Gretel, I didn't realise that her mum needed a lift as well. And I had left my wet Speedos in the back seat of the car. And when I opened the door for Gretel's mother, the door was quite rusty, and I struggled to get the door open, and she sat in the back seat, and true story, as I was driving out of the Packer compound, the water from my wet Speedos was dripping down the seat, and I had to lean over so she didn't get wet. But they were funny days. But
That is so.
yeah, and Gretel was fantastic.
And your house was a real party house too, wasn't it?
Mum and Dad would say we're going away, and I was writing the list about 5 minutes later with Cole. Do you remember that party in Palmy?
Yeah.
And you and I we had a squidgy, and we were squidgering the floor, marble, mind you, the floor from beer and alcohol. Because every man and his dog that we suggested to, in those days there was no social media.
No.
And,
Lucky.
and I remember squeegeeing
We'd all be
it
in
out.
jail.
And then I said, decoy, someone to lay Mum and Dad down the bottom, and we're squeegeeing it out.
Yep.
It was every time they went away, we had 200 people just turn up.
we were naughty,
Yeah.
Nick, in a
We were
good
naughty.
way.
Oh,
We were all
naughty, yeah. Just
always
like
up
We
to
were naughty,
mischief.
but good.
I love the party tradition that sort of went on in your early days. And then when I came on the scene, and I was 22 in 1986, and you had a party at your house. And that's when I met Colin. And I was flying then, and I said, I'm going to Hawaii on Wednesday. And Colin said, I'm going on Tuesday. I said, but I think I'm going to change my flight to Wednesday.
Best move I ever made.
Right.
So tell us a bit about your journey.
Why were you going to Hawaii
Tell us
then?
about
Was
Hawaii.
it
Yeah,
like
well,
in early days?
just
Yeah.
very, very lucky. And, life is, we all get opportunities, but you've got to be prepared to seize those opportunities. And I had a very successful childhood in rugby, as Rich did, and made the Australian schoolboys. Cut a long story short, we
That's a
toured.
huge thing.
No, thank you. It was a great honour.
You know,
And
yes.
back in those days, we toured for 6-7 weeks around
Really?
the world. Now they don't go on tours at all. So how lucky.
Incredible.
And we were
Wow.
billeted by families, It was so sweet. You'd be sitting on the bus and you're just hoping that the parents would come around with a daughter. 'Cause that's all you cared about. But it was beautiful. You'd go into families and you would, anyway, it was just a magical tour of seeing the world and Europe. And just got lucky that on that tour we went to the US. A scout just saw me playing by accident, came
Playing
down.
rugby.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
thought, wow, if he looks that stupid without a helmet, let's put a helmet on his
So
head.
you're scouted.
Well, and it's even better, Nick, because I don't know many Australians that have actually had Americans coming knocking at your door to
You're
offer you a
kidding.
scholarship. No, it was funny because they were
Wow,
knocking at the
it's bizarre.
door, two the coaches that had seen me play, and Mum and Dad again, like piss off, thought they were
Yeah.
Well,
like Mormons,
No, that's because so they spotted
You
him in
tell
LA.
us. Yeah.
So we're
Sorry,
talking
Cole.
about-
Sometimes I think I know your
just,
story.
Just
but
to clarify, the scout was an NFL, meaning
That's
American
right.
football
so he's
scout,
approached
right?
Cole
Yeah.
about
Which is
playing
huge.
football.
It's
Yeah.
And
massive.
but we've got to remember we're in that background. Dad was rugby,
Yeah,
right? And he was
yeah.
all about Collins from the day Colin
Yeah.
was born.
Yeah.
He was going to be a
Wallaby.
wallaby.
Yeah.
And Dad knew it from the day he literally how heavy were you? 14 pounds, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Colin reckons he was born with tape around his ears. Like he was
Mouth
and
guard.
all
He
you
is,
had to
doesn't
do as a 6-year-old when Colin was I remember even when I was a little tacker, 6 or 7 years old, and I was only a small thing, but when Colin was 7 or 8, all anyone ever talked about was that kid's going to be a wallaby. You just had to take one look at his athleticism and his size. So when the scout approached him, Colin's like, "What the hell? As if I'm going to be playing this silly game I've never even heard about." So
No knowledge.
Isn't that
what was
incredible?
amazing about that story was that scout saw Colin as a natural athlete and ends up coming all the way to Australia. And this goes back to Mum and Dad, the funny story, because I was there with you, Kyle. Don't you remember?
Wow, I didn't
we
know
were
this
all on
either.
we were all down running around in speedos and surfing and whatever. And the scout turned up
With a
and
projector, right?
And he knocked
With a
on-
what?
He had a
Projector of my highlights.
No.
on the
because
tour,
they've been
yeah.
filming Colin. Yeah.
Joking.
But when they turned up in the middle of summer in Palm Beach in mid-January, it was about
Party going on.
38 degrees.
Squeegee.
Everybody's wearing Speedos. They're wearing suit and ties. And Mum
Mormons.
thought they were Jehovah's Witness selling Bibles. And then they started buzzing the door, and Mum's like, "No, don't let them in. They're selling Bibles. Don't go near it." So, and they're like, "No, we're from the States. We want to see Colin. No, we don't want any Bibles. Go away. And that's how that all the comical
Speedo
side of it,
City.
because they ended up coming in, and then Cole. I remember them even talking to you about, we want you to come up, and Colin had no interest whatsoever. He left and went for a surf. he didn't even care. That's what I find stunning.
Well,
That
and I said,
really
Dad,
is
University of Hawaii? I went, wow, of all the universities, Dad. And then Dad just gave me the confidence, and just go for it. So like I tell anybody, always see something, you got to learn something, you got nothing to lose, you come home and you've had a great
Isn't
time.
that great?
Best
Seize the
attitude.
day, isn't
Seize
it?
the day.
Bit like your
Big thing about that too is your heart was still in rugby.
Absolutely,
Colin
Rich.
had been brainwashed as I had. I mean, we were just.
So he's just thinking of the chicks on the beach in Hawaii.
Wow. He's my first 6 hours in the USA, right? I fly over, absolutely petrified. I get out of customs, they're going, I'm the man. They're going, who are you, Colin Scotts? Are you da-da-da? I'm like, yeah, I'm coming to be on a scholarship. He says, no, you're not, mate. You got the wrong visa. I go like pretty much holding cell, call it jail, for my first 3 hours in America.
Welcome.
Sitting there. Coach finally rings me up. I go, the jail's fine, mate, but where are the cheerleaders, you arsehole? Finally, after 3 hours, true story, Di, straight to jail. Like, not even go through 6 months later, I was on the gold carpet, it all changed, which is cool. Anyway, got to the college, and there's Tony Robbins, which we all know from the great, which this is 40 years ago, so he was just starting and making us doing the firewalk. So I've just got off the bus, first day in America, and they're doing the firewalk.
He was doing that with the team
back then.
That's incredible.
Well, it's really interesting.
God, I'm learning more about my brothers here today.
And it was quite interesting because it actually was all about bringing the team together. Right, that's what he's lived by. He's the greatest in the world.
We're so into Tony
But you know what he did? He actually divided the team because out of the 140 in the team, 20 guys refused to do the walk, right? And so those 20 never got over it.
Right? Hot coals.
Yeah, hot coals.
I can
It's full
understand
on. It's
why.
full on. But they never got over it, Di. For the rest of their careers, they just felt like sorry, I'd let you down, sort of thing. So all it did was identify the weak in the group. It's quite interesting when you think of the psychic of Tony.
So out of jail, straight to the
firewalk.
What year are we talking about now? When are we just sort of putting the listeners sort of knowing?
Nick, I was very close with all of that because I was playing rugby at the time then
you
too.
were playing
and
in
then,
Aspen, weren't you?
So, I went over and started playing sort of a hired gun becoming a sevens rugby specialist. But I went through Hawaii and I was going to hang out for a couple of weeks. But once I got a taste of the of paradise with Cole, I was like, I'm not going anywhere. And I rounded up all the other boys and we virtually moved in with Colin. So
I've got to say, on that trip when I met Colin and I came back, I think I ended up going up to, I don't know, San Francisco or something on the way back. I had to stop over Hawaii on the way back and I saw Rich.
See? So Richard got all the friends over.
And to be honest, Nick, I was a bad influence for Cole. And I think the big thing about Cole's story there too is everyone forgets. I often say he's the only player in the history of the NFL who never wanted to be an NFL player,
It's
which
amazing.
makes his story that much more special because everyone forgets this whole thing was a bit of a joke at the time. Colin was there just to party, meet girls. Colin kept being threatened about thrown off the team, but he didn't really care because the consequences didn't mean anything. Because at the end of the day, if he left, he was just going to go and play for the Wallabies, which is what Dad really wanted.
Imagine having the choice. Can you talk about the valet parking at the party?
All sorts of trouble.
Because for the listeners, so Richard brought all their buddies from Sydney and hang out in Hawaii for a while.
Yeah.
And they got the opportunity
we
to
got in so
valet
much
park
trouble.
cars at some
John Wilbur, who was my manager.
who had a really big
Super
home,
Bowl party.
and it was it was the who's who of
Tom Selleck turned up.
So they'd come in from
The
mainland
who's who of
America.
Hawaiian,
So what happened?
Well, they were silly enough they needed some staff to do a valet service, and Colin was leading the show, so I blame him. But so it was Colin and I and a few of the rugby boys, and we were just drinking beers out the front, and we thought, well, valet parking, how hard can it be? You just get a couple of keys and throw them out. So we didn't think for an instant. We're pretty, Dad hadn't trained us that well, but we were so naive, and I blame Colin. We started, so it's the who's who of Hawaiian VIPs and mainlanders, and a lot of professional NFL footballers who come over and play this Pro Bowl each year. So we start collecting 150 car keys, and we just put them in a box, and no one thought that maybe when they came back, well, how are we going to find the keys, let alone find their cars? Because we just scattered cars all over the neighbourhood. And Colin would drive off in a car. Remember, there's all these cars. We don't know how to drive them. They're all left-hand
And they're the wrong
drive.
side of
we
the
get it
road.
the wrong side. No, we get it the wrong
road.
side of the car. We sit in the passenger side. The guy's looking at us going, mate, that's not a good start.
No, but Colin would get in a car and go, sir, I'll go and park it. And he'd sit there for 5 minutes and the wipers would come on, the horn, and the owner would look and go, the owner would go, mate, do you know what you're doing? He goes, yeah, I got it. And then the back wipers would come on, and then the hazard light. And then finally Colin go, "Arr!" And he's going, and he would just dump the car anywhere.
Gardens, lawns.
And we were in such a panic to offload all these cars.
And
we
the keys.
filled the whole neighbourhood. We covered
Diamond
driveways.
Head, mind
everything.
you, Diamond Head.
So hang on, that was the easy part. So then we're having 4 or 5 beers, And it comes midnight.
You're thinking that was easy.
No, the first person comes out at midnight and goes, "Excuse me, can you get my Chevrolet Buick, whatever?" And I'm like, "Well, you're what?" "Sorry, mate, what was that?" I didn't even know what he's talking about.
We're colourblind. He's saying a brown one. We're going,
You're thinking
So
like a
Colin,
Holden
no,
or
Colin
a Ford.
goes, "I'll get it," and he's got no idea what he's looking for, right? So after,
Let alone the keys.
no, after 15 minutes, so he tips the box over with 150 keys, and the guy's in his suit and tie on his hands and knees trying to find his keys and goes, "Where did they find you guys running this service?" And anyway, Colin finally gets the keys. Colin disappears for 40 minutes and comes back with the wrong car. And we were sitting there going, "Oh my God," the guy's screaming. Meanwhile, there's 15 other people queuing up to get their cars, and it was a complete and utter disaster.
That is
loved
fun.
it.
And you weren't run out of town after that.
Didn't somebody not get their car?
Oh, with two
Weren't
cars we
people-
never found.
They got taxis.
So the police were called. The police called because we never found two cars. And when the police turned up there, most of the rugby guys ran away. One guy was hiding in a tree. One guy got trapped in a car. He couldn't get out because it's self-locked. And Colin had to face the music. And he's there just going, "What the hell?" And so two cars got towed away because we parked them on driveways. So
Oh, that's so
It
funny. I
was.
thought you
Tom
might have got a
Selleck
good
was
price
cool.
for them, Cole.
Tom Selleck was cool, thank
But
God.
that was the story of
Yeah,
Colin's
start.
life. And
Although 2 months later he said, "Mate, I can't believe you took an hour to find my car." he was shitting himself because he had the red Ferrari because of Magnum. He drove around it. That was his whole #1 show in America for 8-10 years.
back in the day.
And then you had life in St. Louis. Is
Yes,
that right?
yeah,
With the Cardinals.
yeah. That's where I got drafted, and
So how did it happen with the drafting?
So
Tell
the
us story.
drafting,
Oh yeah, well,
Yeah.
so everyone was waiting.
We've been doing prank calls with you too.
Yeah,
So remember,
yes.
Colin would get a bit carried away, so we'd actually ring him and say, "Hi, it's so-and-so Washington Redskins, you loser, we're going to pay you $2, what?" And Colin's like, "Oh, F off."
Yeah.
So when the call came
no.
through,
No, wait, Richard. You wait for the phone call, and of course, I had all the film crew there just sitting with me all day. So stressful. Like,
Oh, yeah, it's a
can I
big
give you another
deal,
beer
yeah.
or something? And anyway, they all just packed up late at night because they didn't think I was going to get drafted.
Right, yeah.
And as soon as they walk out the door, I get the actual
No,
phone call.
you're
Nobody's there.
joking.
Or me,
Oh,
but it was cool. It was
But
me
did you
alone.
think it was a crank call
It
from
was
your
the
brother?
greatest phone call. No, it was the greatest phone call of my life. But what
Wow.
happened? Did the beautiful thing, and the next year, media all took off. Came back to my apartment and said, "Can you reenact the phone call?" So,
Oh, fake it.
can you get your brother to go next door and just ring? So it sounds so.
So
You're
I'm
going, "Whoa."
knowing all the cameras were there and they had to recreate it, Colin's pretending to get the full. So I do the phone
Live
call
reach to some of them.
and Colin's on live television. So I ring up and go, "You loser," as if we would want you. And Colin's on the other line going, I really appreciate that.
No, it's the
Greatest
greatest day
moment of my life.
life.
Thank you.
You
And I
are-
go, "Did you hear what I said?
Wanker.
You're a loser.
Wanker.
Nobody wants you. Stop wasting everyone's time." He goes, "Oh my God, such an honour. Thank you." Oh my God.
This is the greatest.
And then when
day
they
of my
stopped
life.
filming,
What
Colin
the
ran out and wanted to kill me. So we ran down the corridor and I was like, "What's going on?"
And so, Colin, with all that, you've actually written a book called All Balls.
Yes, Mum.
And who came up with the name?
Yeah, Mum came up with it.
Mum,
It was apparently because
seriously?
Yeah.
I was
Wow.
good at playing with balls.
Playing with
Yeah.
his
my own
balls.
balls. or
When
I
you
don't
were
know.
young.
I had ball
It's a
skills.
great
yeah,
name,
yeah,
really,
yeah, yeah.
All Balls. Well,
Yeah.
and that's the story really of
Views
your
It
life.
should have been
that
a
one.
circus,
That
to
went
be
over
honest.
my head.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
Mum,
yeah,
of
yeah.
all people.
Isn't she?
Yeah,
It's
no.
pretty
amazing.
No,
Yeah.
just fortunate to come back and
It's a
write up the
best-selling
story.
book.
Yeah. Rich helped me write a lot of it because he was there for half. Came for a
Yeah.
week but stayed half my life.
And we want to hit a bit more with Rich's career too, but just tell us also, so we're onto that as well, with possibly with the movie that's being
Yeah, Nick. Well, it's
in the
one.
wind.
And look, the story's been around a long time, but in reflection, obviously, because I'm in the entertainment business and run a media business, I've always said to Cole, not just on the success of his book, but his story is so unique. It's unlike anything. Because as I keep saying, football stories are done to death. Especially in this country, as a lot of people have done amazing things, whether it be in soccer or AFL or rugby and so on. But Colin's story, the fact he came from a pretty wealthy upbringing, so he didn't need to go and make money elsewhere. And he certainly came from a strong rugby pedigree. And the whole reason for going to Hawaii, and the truth of the matter is, Colin forgets this too, when they realised he didn't have much interest, you know what was the turning point? They made him the head judge of the Waikiki bikini competition. And seriously, Colin said to me, right, confiding in his own brother, goes, I think this is this is it. I've got to do this, right? It wasn't the football. It was just a means to an end.
That was legendary.
Every Friday night, he was the head judge of the White Brigade, and Colin goes,
Poor thing, Colin.
This is my calling.
Okay.
This is my calling.
And he's like, I'm a natural at this.
And I didn't do any favours for the best-looking girl. No.
Times were different then.
So what? Sorry for that, but I remember you just reminded me waking up in Hawaii on some chaise lounges in a hotel at like 6 a.m. with Colin on the other chaise lounge.
Yeah.
I'd done an all-nighter in Hawaii. He'd introduced me to a 7-foot basketball. I wanted to kill him. Kill Colin for introducing me to him. And so we're lying on the chaise lounges in this hotel, and the pool guy comes around and he goes, oh. And I'm like, waking up. And he noticed Colin and he went, Colin Scotts. I'm like, we're all like your hyenas. And he went, look, mate, you got to leave. I've got guests coming in. He went, no worries, mate. And we just walked off like two bush turkeys. And I just thought, Hawaii those days. Cole goes, pull up a chaise lounge, have a little sleep here.
And Colin got away
crazy
with
world.
murder.
Well, it's a million people out in the middle of nowhere, a little speck island. There's no influence of professional teams. It's just the university is the temple.
I'm just saying what was so unique and amazing about Colin's story, because Colin is the only NFL footballer in history, as far as I'm aware, that never wanted to be an NFL footballer, because he was born to play for the Wallabies, and every time he got in trouble or got threatened to be thrown off the team, it was like, who cares? I'm going back and playing for the Wallabies.
So if he wasn't drafted, he could have gone back and judged the bikini contest.
Well, he was, I've got to tell you.
Well, the first 3 months when I went out there, Richard, and you were saying bashed and smashed, because I'd never put on my pads before, so I'm on a full scholarship, which is a massive entitlement. Only 40% of the team actually get a scholarship. The rest are all trying to get one. And then I didn't even know how to put on the pads, right? There's 14 pads, and I've got one funny shape one. I didn't know where to put it. I'm not going to ask somebody where to put pads on, right? So I was a former cricketer, so you had to call the box.
There, right.
So you protect the family jewels. That's just what we do in Australia, right, with cricket. So I'm thinking, righto, it's put it down there and all good. And little did I know, but I ran around for 3 months with this. It's actually an arse pad that protects your tailbone. Around my balls for 3 months. And then coach finally brings me over in front of 140 players and goes, now look, Scotts, come here. Enough of this circus. I know your pads impressed all the girls about your bloody big crutch, but it goes on your ass. And you know what I said? Why? And he sent me off. Thought I was being a smart ass.
Now I know why you got the title of the book, All Balls.
It's incredible.
No balls after that.
Now tell us now, like your dad's, and you've had a whole change of life. Like here we're at this stage of your life. How is it? Like now you're no longer sort of like the...
Not as fun, eh?
But you've got two beautiful kids.
Yeah, no. It's just it's a different stage, isn't it?
And Rich, you've got 4.
4. Love it. Wish I had more.
And you're in the hood. You're in Palm Beach.
Palm Beach, living... Well, I'm living a lot like I think Mum and Dad. They, had a big family. If I'd started early, I think I would have had 8 kids too.
But you had kids like, I think you were 40, weren't you?
Yeah, I started
So
late.
for those that think, you hear a lot of younger...
No, Rich is a brilliant father. Hands-on. He loves it. He
I always say,
greatest father.
Everybody loves their kids. Not everyone loves being with their kids. You know what I mean? So I love being with
that's well said, mate.
That's beautiful.
You don't know what stress or love is until you have a child.
Yeah, but that's a beautiful thing. And I think that's a thread, from a sort of an outside of it, part of the family.
Yes.
I can see with all the Scotts, you all have that just sort of like big hearts, full of love,
passion.
And it's a genuine thing.
Yes.
And I think listeners, listening in too with families, because they all come in different shapes and sizes, and sometimes there's love and sometimes there's disagreements, and they don't always come back together. But your family always finds a way.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's very
Yeah.
true.
And you've only got to look at the cousins, how close they are.
Yes.
It's very
Which I
true.
love.
There's 40 of us. Hence the nurse said when Mum was dying, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Only family allowed in here.
Yes.
We went,
Yes.
this is actually about half of us.
Yes.
We're all family. And she reversed out
Yeah.
so slowly. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Because there's just so many of us.
Yeah, and you take for granted growing up in a big family. What an absolute privilege it is.
Absolutely.
And not everyone, I suppose, says that from a big family. But for me personally, oh my God, there's not a day I past that I'm not think back and pinch myself on the incredible upbringing that we had.
Yeah,
no big families left.
There's not.
Remember when I went overseas, I was living overseas playing football was basically paying my way, rugby at the time. And I remember Dad giving me a gold Amex card. I've never forgiven you for this guy. And he gave me the gold Amex and he goes, son, use that beyond an emergency. Don't bother coming home. So, because I was a stubborn bastard, I got the Amex card and I put it in my back pocket. I never used it for 3.5 years. And I'm telling this story a week after I get back from being overseas. And Di looks at me and goes, you idiot. I was in New York for 3 weeks, ran out of money. He said, Dad, send me 10 grand cash. And he sent it over. And I was sitting there just choking on my breakfast cereal going, oh,
You
okay.
idiot.
No,
You
he
idiot.
gave me the Amex card, gave me the same talk.
Right.
Darling, it's for emergency. I went, I need another vodka tonic now.
I was trying to be the martyr, and Di lasted 3 weeks and got all this extra funding.
To
And then the card went back and I had to really get a serious
To
job
visit
survive
Di in heaven, you
New
must
York
have
in
a
the old
bottle of
days.
French champagne. That's the only way
Yeah.
you'll get to
It's
visit it.
Di
So I
Di.
was so
Yeah.
proud of myself, Nick. She thought I was a complete idiot. Yeah.
What was it like around the dinner table with all
Okay,
of you?
you wanna know?
Yeah, I want to know.
An
Strongest
arm
survive.
coming across, a hairy arm coming across, like you can't see because it's blocked the sun, and we're talking about grabbing the leg of lamb, not a slice, not a slice, like and then the leg of lamb, there goes the hairy arm back, and the leg of lamb's gone over there, and we're all like, what? They were starving, like whatever.
Crazy.
Strongest survive.
And Mum
wasn't
would go, he needs to eat.
it? Big
like,
bowl.
What the hell? So do we, you know.
Just chaos.
Potatoes for you and lamb for
The
Cole,
mum would
you know,
usually have another one in the oven.
Fun.
What about drive-ins? And I had to be on the roof with a girlfriend because there was too
Yeah.
many in the back. And Dad hiding us under quilts
Blankets.
because you have to
Yeah.
pay per person. Dad would say, 3 kids, 2 adults. Thank you very much. And we'd all go, wee! And rip off the
Hey,
quilts.
chop, chop.
The
And
criminals
there's
had got in
there
again.
was like 12 of us or something, you know.
A drive-in.
Oh, I
What a- just a
remember putting
memory.
the speaker on the window.
What a
Sounds like
family.
that.
Showing our
I tell you
age.
what, it's
Yeah.
just full of love. And
Yeah.
is there any sort of memories, any other thing like you sort of want to share that you can...
I think
Gosh.
one of the great things Mum and Dad did too was inspire us to do anything. And one of the great things with the family, everybody did amazing
Yeah, I
things,
have to
all
agree.
different. Like
Yeah.
Di's career is amazing.
Yeah.
Always had a great personality and ended up, hosting her own TV
Yeah.
show out of the blue, no
Live.
formal
Yes,
training.
live.
Wendy Heather. our
We had
designer.
designers, we
Yes.
had musicians,
NFL
we've had
players.
NFL players, we've
Yeah.
done we've all
And
done
Richard, who's very understated today,
Yeah.
he's running a massive media
The
company,
best
like
extreme
all over the world.
So tell us what you
Like
do with that
huge.
too. 'Cause,
Oh,
you know, like it's...
Well, I was sort of inspired by Colin's career, to be honest. Well, I wanted to play professional rugby. That was my big thing, but I sort of got caught in his shadow. No one even realised I played
That would have
because
been hard.
That
in
would
a
have
way
been
growing up
difficult.
with
it was hard because I did get ignored, but it just made me more
But look at you,
determined.
But you could have gone the other way, Reg. You know, that's what
No,
made you
no,
made
it's
you
Colin
No,
ins-
but he really did grow up in a shade.
Colin
and I
inspired me.
admire that.
But
you know,
Nick,
I really do.
I was half the size of Colin, so he
Yeah.
got all the attention. I get that, but
But
it
he was
just
hungry on the rugby
But, and
field,
I
Richard.
thought I was pretty good too, but it took a long time for people to realise.
You did all right with the girls, mate.
Wasn't until I got into a
The
couple of
girls
representative teams that
loved
made first
you.
grade. I think Dad sort of turned around and because I wanted to prove to him that I was good too. But
So you were inspired by being in Hawaii,
Oh,
like to get involved in the media.
I think
like
seeing
producing.
the media sponsorship, client
Right,
management,
sports, yes.
having a small taste of trying to manage Colin and not well.
the worst.
All of those components. Yeah, I ended up coming back to Australia and I ended up promoting rugby tournaments in Fiji and Hawaii with
That's
another
right.
partner, and sort of things grew from there. But I always
Yeah.
loved cameras and media, as you know. Writing, I suppose, was my strength, and then the business just grew. And
You're a huge.
I was just
like-
lucky that I sold my business at the right time to IMG, and my business became IMG Media here in Australia. And that was just, we always get those one moments in life where your career just, you get
Turning points.
right time, right place. And I'm like a lot of us in the family doing something I absolutely love.
That's
so we
wonderful,
produce
isn't it?
lots of television content and sell it all over the
You'd
world.
just done one with
so.
Russell Crowe. It's a.
Yeah, we did
I
it.
was
Thanks to Cole.
based,
Yeah.
Was
Cole's
that based
mate.
in? Yeah, he's a really good mate of yours, Cole.
Lovely
but
bloke,
it was
lovely
based in the Barrier Reef.
Great Barrier Reef. Yeah, just a 4-part
You just showed
documentary
me a
series.
segment of it.
Yeah, it's gone into over 100
I love his voice.
countries.
It's like velvet.
Russell was
It's
brilliant.
like honey.
Brilliant.
It's just cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
He's the
But
voice.
I'm so proud of everyone in the family because even our baby brother,
amazing.
He runs huge company.
And they're all. I tell you what, they're all good looking in your family.
Talk about selling tickets on ourselves.
But they're all. Everybody's
We're good at that, aren't we? We're very
the
positive.
girls the spunks and the boys the spunks.
just everybody's been successful in their own way,
Yes,
and I put that to Mum and Dad, Dad was always about you can achieve anything in life, and much as it's a cliche comment, he lived that motto every single day.
Yes.
So he was such an inspiring father.
Yeah.
He was always like, never work for anyone. You just run your own show, and
and look
always
at
driving us to achieve anything. And that's why look at Colin's career. Like, who would have gone out of his comfort zone to do what he did, mate? And jeopardise his whole Wallaby career because Dad pushed to try and do crazy stuff.
Another line from Dad: life starts at the end of your comfort zone. They're very powerful words,
Wow.
Yeah.
Very powerful.
Always telling us we could do anything. Yeah.
What about Vicky, our sister Vicky,
Amazing,
just with her beautiful, beautiful partner, produced an amazing film, Bosch and Rocket.
Just done a film.
You know what I mean? That was huge.
The Hemsworth. And,
and Rosie, our beautiful sister Rosie.
Yes.
Who's
Love
just
it.
the most gorgeous
She's
human,
most
who has the world's
kind,
biggest heart,
generous,
who looks
caring
after
human
our
being.
older sister who's
love
not
it,
that
love
well.
it to death.
And
love it to death.
like a gift. She was born with an angel's the touch
still
of an
paying
angel.
off her Ibiza trip.
Have we got to them all? So people say to me, "Oh, what are the names of your family? You ready?
Can we quickly say
Jillian, Wendy, Dana, Ros, and Colin, Richard, Vicky, Anthony."
Yeah.
Wow. Is that a dementia test? Is it?
Turning back the clock, I think we've got a question. I might start off. I'll ask Rich and you can ask Cole.
It's a great
what
one.
What advice would you give to your 20-year-old self now in reflection?
Oh, good question.
Looking back.
Never
really
easy
good question. Again, I wouldn't change anything in my childhood and my upbringing because I feel it was so charmed and I treasure it every day because every day you hear people's dramas in their childhood, and so I often think I have no excuses but to succeed in life because I was given everything. But what would I change? Probably if I hadn't, what would I say to myself? Not much. I wouldn't change much. Probably in my football career, I should have stayed in Australia, and I wanted to play for the Wallabies too. That was one of my big things, and probably a minor regret that I never gave that a shot. Whether I was good enough, who knows? But I could have given that a go. But I wouldn't change anything in terms of advice. Yeah,
love it.
much.
That's beautiful.
And Collie,
and
what about
same
you?
thing. I was leaving my comfort zone, and my life did start, and I was living. I look back now and I go, my goodness, what. Of all the places to go, University of Hawaii, be the first Australian to receive a scholarship, and you sort of, you look back and you go, oh, could I change a little bit of that, or less partied, or this? I wouldn't change it because I did both.
I think his regret was inviting me to come over.
Yeah, but it was for a week though, Rich.
Yeah. I said I was going to stay a week, and I stayed a year and a half.
We're running out of time, but the last question that we ask is, and I could almost answer it for both of you because we're going to wrap it up. But if you had an opportunity of meeting someone over the back fence, anyone in the world that could live in space, who would that be and why?
Or just probably Putin, just so I could throw something.
That's a great one.
Why do you say that? Sorry, it'd be nice to meet the Ukraine guy. I would like to meet him. That's just caught my attention. Yeah. What a hero.
Who's that?
Ukrainian
Sorry?
president.
Oh, he'd be
Sorry.
Cole. Good.
Zelensky.
I like the balance there with you two. That was great.
We've actually had someone who said Zelensky's wife.
Wow.
That's true. She's been incredible.
Cole, he's my hero, mate. He's my hero.
Yeah, I agree with you. And Dad and Mum, huh?
Of course.
Just have a chat, tell them where we're at.
I love them to
I
death.
like that. Have a chat, tell them where we're at.
Well, definitely,
that was
you're
much
going to be there.
I think we could continue. We could to be continued.
I think we are going to
Absolutely.
How could you ever do? I know we just warmed up.
Where are we going to?
How could you do a podcast with age?
Can you do an R-rated version of this? Because we're just skimming the surface.
We've been at our best.
Guys, thank you so much for coming on, and
unbelievable.
And with your big sis here, and the throw-in sis that's included
love
herself.
Very comfortable, Nick.
You're
Very
the sixth
comfortable.
sister.
We feel like so privileged having you here. It's just been great, and
we've been looking forward to it.
Yeah,
we're
love you
fabulous.
much, and
Yeah.
it's really just
Appreciate
great.
the time, guys.
For the
Definitely go. People love hearing from family too. the
listeners to
extension
get to know
here.
more about Di, because we hear about her crazy family, one of 8.
We
And
have
so it's
plenty
true.
of dirt there with Nita Mum.
R-rated.
Well, thanks for listening. We'll
Yeah.
Be back in your ears next Monday. And
Look forward to it.
forget to follow and
Yeah.
rate and review. How
And
many
rate.
stars, Di?
I think maximum's 5, so we asked for about 22.
22. Yeah, that'll do. Reach for the
See, that's
stars.
why I was brought up. Be positive.
Ciao,
That's
ciao.
Dad
Thanks for
echoing
listening.
through.
Aloha.
See you Monday. Ciao.
Bye-bye.